There are several different pieces of Moodle that are involved in working with quizzes. One is the quiz itself, which is basically a shell to which you can add questions. The second piece is the question bank, which lets you create and organize or import questions. And the third element are the questions themselves. This video will take a look at creating a quiz shell and some of the options that are involved in that. To begin with, on the course main page where you wish to add the quiz, turn editing on. Next, navigate to the area in the course where you wish to add the quiz. From the Add an Activity or Resource menu, which opens a pop-up, select Quiz, and then click the Add button. You'll need to give the quiz a name. You can provide a description for the quiz, which can consist of instructions for the students if necessary, and you have the option to display the description on the course page. However, since they will see it when they click on the quiz, it might be better to save the real estate on the course page for other things. There are many options, perhaps too many for quizzes. To look at them all, you can click the Expand All link, and it will display most of the options. You can, if you wish, set a starting date for the quiz and also a closing date for the quiz, after which it will no longer be available to students. You can set a time limit for students taking the quiz, which can range from seconds to weeks. So some of those options are not as likely to be used. One thing that I would change from the default is the setting for what happens when time expires. I would change that to open attempts are submitted automatically. Otherwise, whatever work the students have done in the quiz will disappear. And they probably won't be very happy about that. You can also permit a submission grace period where things will be submitted but marked late. If you're using grading categories or have categories set up in your grade book, you can put the quiz into one of the categories automatically by selecting it from the drop-down menu. It's probably better if you're going to do this to create the categories first rather than have to move the quizzes around in the gradebook later. You can set a grade to pass, and if you're using things such as course completion or highlighting grades in the gradebook, this will be used to change the color of the grade in the gradebook and show successful completion of activity tracking if that is being used. You have the option, if multiple attempts are allowed, to use different grading methods. For most purposes, unless you're using the quiz as a way of letting students review for a test, it's probably better to just go with the default method and not have any changes made to that. You have the option to display a set number of questions per page before it goes on to a new page and new questions, including having a new page for every question, or you can put all the questions on a single page. Under Layout, if you use the default free navigation method, students can return to earlier pages in the quiz to review questions and change answers. If you select instead the sequential navigation, then students must go through page by page in order and may not return to earlier pages or jump ahead to following pages to see what's coming up in the quiz. If you select the default Shuffle Within Questions, then answers to the questions that have multiple answers will be randomly assorted during the exam, and everybody will have a different order of answers, and it does make it a little bit harder for people to cheat. I would not change anything about feedback and review options, simply because if you get the setting wrong, students might be able to see the answers while the quiz is still open. But you're welcome to experiment if you wish. Yeah, some of these are unlikely to be used by anybody, but they are there if for some reason they're relevant to what you're doing with a quiz. You can require a password for anyone who's interested in taking the quiz, that they would have to put in the correct password before they could attempt the quiz. Browser security gives you the option to create a pop-up window for the quiz that disables some navigation features. Unfortunately, it's not a perfect system, and I wouldn't count on it to feel that your quiz is not can't be cheated on. You can set feedback for different grade levels. For example, if somebody gets 100% on the quiz, you can give them a star or a comment like job well done. You can set different grade boundaries. For example, if you wanted to have a message for anybody who got above 90 on a quiz, you could type it in here, and they will get that feedback after the quiz, when the quiz is graded. And you can create multiple grade boundaries and add them to any extent that you feel they're helpful. You can also make the quiz not visible to students or show it to students. You can set up additional restrictions on taking the quiz. Once again, this is probably more than you really need for starting out with working with quizzes, but later it might give you some interesting options. If you're using activity completion in the course, you can select the options under completion tracking. The first default option is not to use activity completion. The second option is to let students mark the quiz as completed whenever they wish to. And the third option is to show activity as complete when conditions are met. For a quiz, you have a variety of options. Probably the most relevant one would be to require a passing grade or to require a grade. If a student gets a grade, even a failing grade, and require grade is selected, then they will get a check mark for completing the quiz. If you require a passing grade, then they will not get a check mark unless they have exceeded or matched the grade that you set above in grade to pass. Those are pretty much the options available when you're creating a quiz. Some of them, as I said, are not very likely to be helpful or used very much, but they are there if for some reason they might be useful in a particular use case that you have. You can then either save and return to the course, which will take you back to the course main page, or you can save and display. When you return to the course main page, you'll now see that the quiz is on the page under Topic 1. Due to the way this course is structured, we need to click Topic 1 to view what's contained in the first week or topic. And as a teacher, when you click the quiz, it will indicate that no questions have been added yet. So you can either click Edit Quiz and then move to the Add menu to add either a new question directly into the quiz, creating it on the fly. You can add a question from the question bank, or you can have a random question selected from the question bank. Our next video will look at using the question bank to manage your questions for the course site.